both sides.
On the left side, right? Okay. If you're in the left lane, or the right side on the right lane.
If the track is tilted this way, you want him on this side. If it's tilted that way, you want him on that side.
Okay. What if you're by yourself? You just got the car there by yourself.
You're kind of screwed shit up creek.
I can help you today.
Well, no. I'm just.
Okay, right, getting it out.
Okay.
Unless you can talk someone into helping you.
Unless you can talk somebody to help you. The problem is you got to have somebody trained to do it. And that's part of the reason why we're doing this today. Now, hopefully, you guys, as you go through this today, you'll go out and you'll help teach other people. And you'll pay it forward. Some people are just going to sit on it. Oh, I don't want nobody to know. And I get that. I do. But this lifestyle and this sport has been so good to my family and blessed us so abundantly. I want to give back. I want to see father and son right here. I want to see them have the opportunity that I've had with my kids safely. Does that make sense? Because as dangerous as this is, it scares me to death. I'm a bag of nerves every time they go down. It would be worse if I wasn't this particular. My kids probably would have been hurt by now or crashed something. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because these cars are pretty fast. They're not the fastest, but they're fast enough to get them hurt. And it's important that when you're up here and you're helping your kid or your partner or your brother or whoever, you only need one guy, maybe two, to do this job. The reason I say two is a lot of times it's best to have somebody stand behind the car with their hand up and looking forward, and a guy looking the opposite direction doing the same thing. That's a little bit easier sometimes, okay? But it can also throw you off because everybody's got a reaction time. And sometimes, you know, if the reaction times aren't really quick and precise, they get out of the groove, they end up picking up marbles, and it all gets screwed up. I like to do it through the window because I can look right down and see right where they're at.
Now you got lights on this, so for night, right?
Billy's truck has a light. This one doesn't have one yet, but it needs one.
Is that what the lights are for?
Yeah.
See the...
Yeah. Any questions yet?
Do you recommend just driving it back yourself? You know what I mean? Into the tracks if you only have one other person?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's the way I like to do it.
Okay.
I let him drive my Dart that run 1295 in the quarter, and I always wondered how you feel about your boys racing because I scared shitless. For him to take off and go 100 miles an hour, I couldn't imagine. Yeah. But these guys are trained, I mean, yeah. But I'm going to get him in my car.
All right, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about staging. Go ahead, buddy.
Did you purposely set his tire off just a little bit, or was that just what you're talking about? Of it might not be perfectly.
Fords are the worst for it.
Okay.
Because of the front suspension. Have you ever seen a Ford back up and the fucking tires do this? Yeah. Because of this front suspension, they're terrible about. I've seen a few of them that back up really good, and I've seen some of them that back up terrible. But
so if in best case scenario,
you're right, dead.
You would like to have that tire just over, just a little bit more dead center where he was.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
I just wondered if there was a reason for it, or
no. It's just a matter of you can't be perfect. Okay. I'm not trying to be perfect today. I'm trying to explain to you guys, and that's a good question. I'm not trying to be perfect, but I'm just trying to teach everybody. Here's real world scenario. You can teach, well, it's got to be perfect right in the track over there in the classroom scenario. But in the real world, this is the way it goes sometimes, you know. All right, so we're getting ready to stage, right? You'll notice there's two lines up here, okay? You have to pay attention in the driver's meeting because everybody does it a little bit different. The first line is your bump line. Now, if you're a turbo car and you're using a bump box, some of those bump boxes bump a long way, like they're really aggressive, okay? And if you bump past this line and they turn a light on and you're over the line, again, if the stakes are high, they're going to get nippy about it. If you're racing for $500, ain't nobody going to say much. If you're racing for $5,000, it gets worse. If it's $500,000, if it's a quarter inch over that line, okay? So keep that in mind. Now, if you're a turbo car and you're bumping, in your box, you can't turn it down, you can't adjust it. A lot of times you can drag the brake pedal. You can pump the brake pedal up, put a little bit of brake pressure on the rear brakes, and you can bump it in. That's what Billy does. If you've ever seen his truck, if he's bumping in, you'll see the brake lights come on, and he'll bump and then the brake lights go out. That's because he's using the brakes to hold the truck back from bumping in really hard. That makes sense? And that's just something you guys will have to practice. Because some cars, if it's a power glide turned way down, they won't hardly move. If it's a turbo 400 at 4,300 RPM, I don't know why you'd ever want to leave that hard, but if it is, it's gonna bump like really aggressive because of the gear ratio. Does that make sense, guys? So if you're like you're a turbo 400 turbo car. Does yours bump aggressive?
Yeah, I can adjust it with my box.
Not everybody has a fancy one that you can adjust, or maybe they're not smart enough to adjust it. But if you're in a situation where all of a sudden the car's bumping or aggressive for some reason, practice using the brake pedal, and you can hold it back and it won't bump as aggressive that way. All right, so if you're bumping, you're going to want to come up here on the first line and let them bump in. If you're not bumping, you want to put the nose of the car the furthest thing ahead. If it's a Camaro or something like that, it's got a little beak out here in the front. That's going to go on or just behind the second line. Again, if the stakes are high, it's going to get worse. They're going to bitch. Somebody's going to try and throw you out, especially if you're a fast car. If you got a YouTube channel, you're privileged. You see what I mean? These aren't things that most of you guys are probably going to run into until you start doing really well. Once you start winning a lot, you do really well, they'll look for a reason, they'll pick at you. And you're going to get good if you listen to what I'm telling you. Okay? All right, so I'm going to bring Tommy up and put him right on this line. Now, I'm not going to have him bump. I'm just going to put him on the line and send him down.
Oh, put him on the first one and send him? Second one?
Is key. If you noticed, I do this. My hands get closer together as he gets closer to the stripe. If you're just standing here and then just go, whoa, he may end up an inch or two over it because he doesn't know how close he's getting. If you communicate clearly with something he can understand, he'll understand how close he's getting and drag the brake a little bit more as he gets close. But if you're if you've got a driver that's flustered and he's in a rush, you got to be careful. You can't let him see that you're flustered. If you're the crew guy, the lane's perfect every fucking time. Everything is perfect every time. Reassure your driver it's perfect. If it's not, just walk up to him very gently and say, hey, be ready to catch it. If you know there's a problem out there that he may encounter, just say, be ready to catch it. And what that means is be ready to pedal it and pedal once. Try not to be a hero. Pedaling once, races the next day. Pedaling twice, sometimes the car never comes back. Be very, very careful. If you have to lift one time, 9 times out of 10, especially if you're sitting next to one of these two, you're done. I'm telling you guys right now, you have to race your own lane. You have to race your own lane. If you're in a lane that'll hold 520, put a 520 tune-up in it. I don't care what's over there. I don't care who it is. It could be beater bomb. If he's sitting 480 and you can only go 520, it don't make any difference anyway. There's no sense. If you're comfortable on a 520 tune-up and you know what that car will do on a 520 tune-up, trying to put a faster ramp in, trying to go 490 for the first time ever, you're probably going to crash. Or you're going to stand it up, or you're going to do something that's not good. Okay? Race your lane. Don't worry about what's in the other lane.